Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another River Talk. I'm your host, Nate Cap, and thank you for tuning in to this 18th episode of Outcasting. Today, I would like to talk about the relevance of belief, especially in regards to natural law. So I'm going to make a few really important points about belief that I think we should all be more conscious of. But first, before I get into that, I want to talk about how we typically use belief on a day-to-day basis and what is synonymous with belief that can help us understand this energy better. And then I want to talk about the power of belief and how we can change our biology to help heal ourselves and to help prevent diseases just by changing our belief. So when it comes to the word belief, I think it's really important to understand what is synonymous with this word or this energy or this signal. So there's words like trust or confidence or faith, right? So we typically would say something like, I believe in myself, or I have faith in myself, or I believe in you, or I trust in you, or I have confidence in what that person is saying to be true, or I have faith in that person and what they're saying to be true, or I have faith that the sun is going to come up tomorrow, or I believe that the sun is going to come up tomorrow, or I have confidence that, this person is going to pay me back tomorrow, or I have faith that this person is going to pay me back tomorrow. So we're using this energy, we're putting out this signal into others or into the universe or into ourselves in hopes that something of value comes of it, right? But we also have to be aware of how we use belief in a way that can be very destructive, right? So for instance, when we look at religion or cults or groups, that we put our energy or signal into these things, right? These systems. And when we do this, we are putting our energy into something that can be very dangerous, or that can be very violent or very harmful. And we are, to a degree, responsible for what we put our energy into, right? So if we are supporting cults or religions or groups that have done harmful things to others, and let's just say that we're not conscious of that, we're still part of it. We're still putting energy, a support into those things, whether we like to admit that or not. And the reason that this is because, well, we're simply not conscious and we're very naive if we are partaking in any of these groups or religions or cults, right? So it can be a very dangerous thing to use this tool of belief, this energy, this signal, to put into something that could be destructive. So we have to be aware. That's why it's good to study cults and religions to really get the idea of what they are, so that way we don't have to partake accidentally or unconsciously, really unconsciously, we don't have to partake in these bad energies. We don't have to support these awful energies that cause lots of chaos and harm and death. So, because, religion definitely has been extremely destructive all through history. So it's really important to be aware of that. Now, where else can belief be destructive or dangerous? Well, if we look at our belief in the idea that we're controlled by our genes. This can be very dangerous because most of us actually believe this. Most of us have been brought up and indoctrinated to believe that we are controlled by our genes. And because of this, we become victims. And we typically, most of us, believe that if our family has had a history of getting certain diseases like cancer or heart disease or diabetes, that we're probably going to get that eventually. So then we become victimized. We become controlled by our genes. And this is a very dangerous illusion that most of us buy into. But we don't have to, because all we really have to do is recognize the power of belief. The belief over our biology through epigenetics. And this is something that has been brought into the light by Dr. Bruce Lipton, which I highly recommend looking into his work on this subject in particular. Because epi means above or outside of, and genetics means the control of genes, right? So if we understand that we can rise above our genes by changing our belief, then we can put good signals into our body, our biology, and change our being to not get ill or not get the diseases that we believe we're probably going to get from our family or from others. So it's also a way to heal if we have a disease or if we have an illness. Change our biology. So if we look at ourselves as having a field of energy going in and around us, this is actually called a field. So if you can imagine, so it's like a torus field, right? If you can imagine a donut, right? A clear, standing in the middle of a clear donut. This is what the torus field is, but of course invisible. So we have this field, and this field is what interacts with the environment, right? So the environment can be negative or it can be positive. The environment is what sends signals to our body to alter our being, to make us ill or to make us healthy, right? And if we're living in a world where we're constantly taking in negative signals, it can make us ill, right? So if our field is interacting with other negative fields of other beings, especially humans, we can take in their diseases, and we can we can take in their energy, and that negative energy can actually cause disease, right? So if we're constantly around negative people who have diseases, well, our chances are a lot higher in catching the diseases. But we can change our belief, okay? We don't have to be victimized by their fields of negative energy. We can change our belief and send signals from our field, and this field is akin to our mind. So we can send signals from the mind of belief as positive signals to the cells or the membranes or many brains. We can send these good signals, good vibrations to these cells to alter our biology, to help us heal and to help us prevent ourselves from getting disease. So this is a very powerful instrument that we have to help us be healthy. And also it's important to recognize that It's not just what we believe that helps us, but also what we eat and what we drink. Because what we eat and what we drink are information. And if that information is toxic or, has a negative charge, it's probably not going to help us very much. And if we're already in a negative state of mind, it can really ramp things up, because it's about, it fuels the fire, if you will. So if we can recognize that we can change our belief and heal ourselves, then why is it that we have not really known about this? Because it's nothing new, but it is new in modern science or modern biology, in the last 40 years. And one of the reasons that we are not wanted to know about this is because of government or big pharma or both, especially. And this isn't to say that, all Western medicine is bad. This isn't to say that some medicines don't work. But we have to understand that we are wanted to stay in a low frequency and believe that we are controlled by our genes, so that way we can be easier to be controlled by our environment, because they understand this. The people who rule over the people of the world, the dominators at the apex of knowledge in this world, they know how the mind works. They know how belief works. And they know if people can believe a certain thing collectively, they can manifest disease, which creates profit for Big Pharma, because Big Pharma will always have the cure and the solution in pocket at all times. Just like, what we went through the past few years. There's what's called the Hegelian dialectic that took place, which is, a problem arose and people freak out. People are living in fear because they believe that they're controlled by their genes, and they want, the government to step in and do something, because the government is most people's heroes, because most people believe in the legitimacy of authority. So government steps in once there's a reaction, right? So there's the problem, reaction, solution, and government steps in and takes control with a solution, and that solution is to bring in, especially if people are ill or afraid of getting disease, they come in with a solution. They come in with the jab or some kind of medication, or something to cover your face. And this is how governments have worked for a very long time, because this is how they stay in power. They stay in power through fear. And so if they can keep us in fear and keep us believing that we're controlled by our genes, then they have us right where they want us, in a very low frequency, catching disease and wanting someone to step in and save them, wanting some kind of medication or some kind of, needle to, with some kind of serum to save them. Okay, so we have to understand that we are wanted ill. We are wanted to maintain this illusion in our mind to keep us in fear, to keep us dependent on government, to make us dependent on Big Pharma. And it's been this way for a very long time, but this is how governments maintain control over the people. This is one way, anyway. So that is very important to understand the power of belief. We don't have to be victims to our genes. And there's so much more to that. So like I said, I highly recommend looking into the work of Dr. Bruce Lipton. Now, where does belief not actually work? Okay, where does belief not have any power? When we look at the laws of the universe, when we look at laws like gravity, these are uppercase L laws, like gravity, or the law of inertia, or the law of momentum, or the law of thermodynamics, or the law of natural law. These laws are what we are all bound to, and they require no belief. These laws are set in nature. They are natural conditions that are working whether we believe in them or not. So that means that our belief in these laws are irrelevant. And this is very important to understand where our belief does not work, where it has no power. So, for instance, if you were to, drive your car off of a cliff into a canyon, would it matter whether you believe in gravity or not to, save you, if you will? No, obviously not. You're still going to hit the bottom of the canyon and die on impact. If you were to drive your car off the cliff and say, I don't believe in gravity, you're still going to hit the bottom of the canyon into a mangled mess. If you drive your car off of a cliff and you say, I believe in gravity, doesn't matter. Still going to end up at the bottom of the canyon, dead. So, that being said, belief is powerless when it comes to uppercase L laws. Okay? Now, I bring this up in regards to natural law, especially because natural law is very unique to us human beings, because this law governs the consequences of human behavior, or behavior of beings that have the capacity to understand the difference between right and wrong. Okay? So this law is very, very, very unique to us human beings. That is very important to understand, because this is how we, as a human species, learn lessons in reality. We learn our lessons through the science of natural law, so we don't have to keep making the same mistakes over and over and over, like believing in man's law, which is my next point. So man's law is the lowercase l law, which is a law that requires belief for it to work. Okay? So this law, this man's law, is an illusion. It's an illusion that has been programmed into our minds through fear, right? So man's law, the illusion of man's law, is akin to being in belief that our genes control the fate of our life. So if we're controlled by our genes, it's through belief. It's through a very destructive belief. And the same applies to man's law. Man's law is it's a belief system that requires fear. To be controlled by genes requires fear. It requires a belief based in fear, right? So if we can change our we can change our belief system, if we can change our beliefs and become conscious of natural law, and become conscious that man's law is an illusion, it's a disease of the mind, then we can start to see things get better in this world. We can start to see ourselves heal, because that's what we want to do. We want to heal from these diseases. We want to not allow ourselves to be in this low frequency with these diseases that are programmed into our mind, okay? Because that's what they are. Diseases are programs. Programs are diseases. Well, programs that have no benefit to our evolution as a human species. Because if we're living in or under man's law, if we live with the belief in man's law, what we're doing is we're stagnating our evolution as a human species. So if we start to pull away and push this belief system out of our mind, this program, this disease, we will heal by reconnecting with nature. That's the point. That's what we want to do. That's freedom. Freedom is reconnection to nature. That doesn't mean like, going back to living like a caveman or anything like that. It just means that we have to get this violent system of man's law out, this program, this disease out of our mind, because it is causing chaos, it is causing destruction, just like if we believe that our genes are controlling our fate of our life, it is destructive. It does not make our lives any better. It does not help us become well. So that is why we must change our belief, okay? And before I get off here, it's important to remember that there are two ways to be fooled as a human being. One is to believe what isn't true, and the other is to refuse to believe what is true. And I'd take that a step further and to, say that, the other is to refuse what can be understood or what can be known or what can be acknowledged as truth. But the point is that we have to understand that we're all being fooled. Most of us are being fooled. Most of us are being duped into this belief system, okay? So it's not real, it's an illusion. We have to get out of that. We have to get out of these illusions if we wish to become well. So I'm gonna go ahead and end it there, and if you would like to go further in your research, you can go on any of the topics that I share on these shows. You can go to cubbyhole.com, start at podcast number 1, work your way forward. And also you can follow me on Telegram under Outcasting with Nate Cap, where I share weekly videos and updates with these shows in particular. So thank you for tuning in, and hopefully you guys have found value. And if you have found value, please share this work, get it out there so people can take this information in and think about it, contemplate. So I will see you on the next episode.